sitting in one of two places.
Yeah, and neither of them are ideal.
No, not at all. It's either trapped on a crumbling, wildly expensive server that your IT team just spends a fortune maintaining, or it's sitting in a beautifully streamlined cloud database where a third-party vendor permanently holds the master key.
Right, and today's deep dive asks a very simple but honestly pretty uncomfortable question. Why did we all just agree to this compromise?
Exactly. I mean, it really is the defining architectural dilemma of modern business right now.
Oh, absolutely. We are looking at a landscape where the accepted standard for data management is inherently flawed. It relies on two completely opposite but equally problematic extremes.
And that's our mission today. We are unpacking a highly concentrated architectural philosophy from a company called Thorn Technologies.
Yeah, they've put forward an argument that fundamentally challenges how we handle, store, and transfer our data.
So whether you're an IT professional prepping for a major infrastructure overhaul, or, you're just someone who wants to understand who actually controls the digital world we live in, this is a fascinating logic puzzle.
It really is. Thorn's stance is essentially a flat-out refusal to accept the industry standard.
Right. And to really grasp the alternative they're proposing, we have to look closely at the trap they claim everyone is currently stuck in.
Yeah, their core argument basically declares war on these two established extremes.
They state quite plainly that legacy managed file transfer is a massive burden, and software as a service, or SaaS, inherently means someone else is holding your data.
Okay, let's break down that trap, starting with that first extreme, legacy MFT.
Right. For anyone who doesn't breathe IT acronyms all day, managed file transfer is the heavy-duty plumbing.
Yeah, the secure systems companies use to move massive amounts of sensitive data around.
And calling the legacy version of this a burden almost feels like an understatement, honestly, when you look at the reality of it.
Oh, for sure. It's a very specific type of operational pain. When we talk about legacy MFT, we're usually talking about on-premises hardware.
Right.
Or, highly manual, outdated software systems. The word burden implies friction. And in the enterprise IT world, that friction translates directly into lost time and massive expense.
Like the physical servers that constantly need security patching.
Exactly. It's the software that requires a specialized engineer just to, configure a single new user. Or it's the 2 a.m. panic on a holiday weekend when a physical storage drive fails and just takes down a critical financial pipeline.
Oh man, yeah. It's the equivalent of building and maintaining this massive, heavy underground vault in your own backyard.
That's a great way to look at it.
I mean, yes, you own it. Yes, you control who walks up to the door, but you also have to pour the concrete, you have to fight off the mold, you have to hire the armed guards.
Right.
And when the hinges rust, that is entirely your problem to fix. It is exhausting.
It is exhausting. And because that model is so resource-intensive, the entire tech industry naturally looked at that burden and just sprinted in the exact opposite direction.
Which brings us to the second extreme. SaaS, software as a service.
Right, which is the shiny public bank down the street.
Beautifully maintained.
Exactly. They have great coffee in the lobby, you don't have to patch any concrete, and you can open an account in 5 minutes.
But, and this is really the crux of Thorn's argument, the teller permanently holds the master key to your safe deposit box.
Yeah, that is the trade-off. In a SaaS model, a vendor provides the software over the internet. You don't install anything on your own servers.
You just log in through a browser or an API, right?
Yep, it completely solves the burden of maintenance. But Thorn makes the case that this convenience comes at the absolute cost of sovereignty.
Okay, but I have to push back here for a second because this is where the industry might get defensive. Is SaaS always a compromise of ownership? I mean, we use SaaS apps for literally everything today, from our email to our payroll. Are we really surrendering our data just by using a modern cloud tool?
It's a completely valid skepticism.
Yeah.
But, well, if we follow the technical mechanics of how SaaS actually operates, Thorn's argument really holds up.
Okay, how so?
Think about the data path. When you use a traditional SaaS application to transfer a file, your data leaves your network. It travels across the internet to the vendor's network.
Right.
It is processed by their computing power, and it sits on their storage drives.
Even if they promise they encrypt it.
Even with encryption, they ultimately own the environment where the data lives. They control the infrastructure, the access logs, the physical servers in their data center.
Oh, I see.
So you have successfully outsourced the heavy lifting of the legacy burden, but you've paid for it by giving a third-party custody of your most sensitive assets.
So you traded your heavy backyard vault for a lease in a building you don't even control. And if the landlord decides to change the locks, or, if the landlord's building gets broken into by a sophisticated hacker, your valuables are at risk.
Right, and you are entirely dependent on their security team to fix it.
Which is why the architectural philosophy we are looking at today is so compelling. Thorn Technologies is essentially arguing that both of these options are terrible.
Yeah, you either drown in the maintenance of your own infrastructure, or you just surrender the custody of your data.
So they are pitching a way to bridge this gap. They call it the third option.
Yes, and they point to two specific products they've engineered to execute this: SFTP Gateway and StorageLink.
And the philosophy they are pushing here is, let me check the source, your data in your cloud, under your control, not legacy, not SaaS Thorn.
The most interesting part of this approach is their absolute refusal to blend into existing categories.
Right, they aren't trying to market themselves as a better SaaS or a more user-friendly legacy tool.
No, they are carving out a completely new architectural lane. The goal is to eliminate the operational burden without making the sacrifice of handing over your data.
And to really hammer this home, they use this striking visual metaphor in the material. It's literally a stone castle wall, complete with medieval battlements and arrow slits.
Built in a tight protective circle, securely around a digital cloud.
Yeah. It's this wild fusion of ancient, impenetrable physical security with modern, ethereal cloud technology.
It is a highly effective way to visualize a really complex technical concept. I mean, a cloud is inherently amorphous, right?
But by definition, it's out there somewhere.
Floating, decentralized, and very hard to grasp from a security perspective. So by putting a heavy physical stone fortress around it, they're grounding the abstract concept of cloud computing in the very tangible, visceral concept of absolute ownership.
It represents a perimeter that you completely control, even in the cloud, a fortress for your digital assets.
Exactly.
It's a great concept, but, anyone can draw a castle on a whiteboard. How does this actually work in practice?
Well, if we look at the mechanics, Thorn outlines 3 specific architectural pillars to prove this isn't just a clever marketing graphic.
Okay, let's get into the pillars. The first one they emphasize is private cloud deployment.
Right. Their core mechanism relies on the fact that these solutions deploy directly into your own private environment.
Meaning?
The emphasis here is on ensuring you maintain total infrastructure control.
Okay, wait, let's stop right there and look at that phrase. Total infrastructure control.
Yeah.
Because from a technical standpoint, if I am deploying this in my own private environment, aren't I just walking right back into the burden of legacy MFT? Like, how is managing my own private cloud infrastructure not exactly the same nightmare as the crumbling backyard vault? If I own the servers, don't I have to maintain them?
That is exactly the trap the industry expects you to fall into. The assumption that ownership automatically equals a maintenance nightmare.
Right, because historically it has.
Sure, but there is a massive technical distinction between legacy hardware and modern private cloud deployment. Thorn is not handing you a box of raw code and telling you to figure it out.
Okay.
They are providing highly engineered, prepackaged software solutions.
So how does that bypass the burden?
Because of how it deploys. You utilize tools like cloud marketplace templates or infrastructure as code. You go into your own AWS or Azure account, the cloud environment that your company completely owns and controls, and you essentially click a button to spin up their software.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You get all the modern functionality, the sleek web interfaces, the automated user management, but it is running entirely on your own virtual server, storing data in your own private buckets.
Okay, I see the distinction. It's like, instead of buying a massive pile of bricks, a mortar mixer, and a blueprint you barely understand, which is the legacy burden.
Right.
Or renting a hotel room where the staff can walk in at any time, which is the SaaS compromise. Thorn is delivering a fully constructed, state-of-the-art smart home, and they are dropping it directly onto a plot of digital land that you already hold the deed to.
That is the perfect way to conceptualize it. You own the land, you hold the keys, and you control the perimeter firewalls.
But you didn't have to suffer through the friction of pouring the foundation or wiring the electricity yourself?
Right. The software is modern and lightweight, but the infrastructure belongs to you.
But, owning the land and having a smart home only solves half the problem.
How so?
Because if Thorn Technologies is the builder who manufactured the smart home, couldn't they still theoretically peek at the data flowing through it?
I see what you mean.
Yeah, like even if the house is on my land, what's stopping the software from phoning home? Did the builder leave a backdoor open in the code?
Which naturally brings us to the second and arguably the most crucial architectural pillar they propose. Zero data access by vendor.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
They make a very explicit technical guarantee that Thorn Technologies does not touch your data. It lives only where you decide.
So how is that technically possible? I mean, if I'm buying software from a company to transfer my files, how can they guarantee they never touch those files?
It comes down to understanding the data path we talked about earlier. In the standard software industry, to provide a service, the vendor needs to route your data through their servers.
Right, they ingest it, they process it, and they deliver it.
Exactly. But Thorn has engineered their solutions to operate entirely outside of that data path.
Outside the data path, meaning they provide the pipes, they give you the blueprints for the plumbing, but they do not supply the water, and they intentionally didn't build a meter to read what flows through it.
Precisely. Once you deploy SFTP Gateway or StorageLink into your private cloud environment, the software runs autonomously. So when one of your clients uploads a sensitive file, that file goes directly from their computer through your private cloud firewalls and lands securely in your private storage bucket. The traffic never routes through Thorn's corporate network.
So it's like buying that high-tech smart safe from a master locksmith.
Right.
They design it, they build it, but they architected the locking mechanism so that they physically cannot hold a master key.
Exactly. Once the safe is bolted to the floor in your house, they have zero visibility into what you put inside.
And the real-world implications of that zero-access architecture are massive, particularly when you look at security and compliance.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, think about a hospital dealing with heavily regulated patient records or a major bank processing international financial transfers.
Yeah, proving to a regulatory body that no third-party vendor can even physically access your data makes passing a security audit significantly easier.
Because you don't have to spend months auditing Thorn's data centers or reviewing their internal security protocols.
Right, because your data never steps foot in their environment. It drastically reduces your overall threat surface.
Right.
Let's look at a worst-case scenario. If Thorn Technologies, as a corporate entity, were to suffer a catastrophic data breach and hackers compromise their internal networks,
Oh, wow.
your company's data would remain entirely unaffected.
Mm-hmm.
The hackers would find nothing because your sensitive files never lived on Thorn's servers in the first place.
That is wild. They remain completely isolated within the perimeter of that stone of fortress you built in your own cloud.
It is the true power of staying out of the data path.
Okay, so I have this total infrastructure control in my own cloud, and I have this absolute zero vendor access guarantee. It's a very compelling model.
Yeah.
But as an IT architect, my immediate next question is, what is the catch?
Right.
Am I locking myself into a proprietary ecosystem to get this level of control? Like, do I have to use a specific, highly obscure brand of cloud computing to build this castle?
And that anxiety over being trapped is exactly what the final pillar addresses. They call it universal cloud compatibility.
Universal cloud compatibility, okay.
The architecture is designed for native deployment across all the major landscapes.
Yeah.
AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and critically, as a Docker container.
AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. I mean, those are obviously the absolute heavyweights. They represent the vast majority of the enterprise cloud market.
Yeah, for sure.
But the inclusion of Docker is really the interesting piece here. For listeners who might not be deep into DevOps, how does a Docker container fit into this idea of universal compatibility?
The easiest way to understand Docker is to think about the physical shipping industry.
Okay.
Before standardized steel shipping containers were invented, moving cargo was a nightmare. You had barrels, crates, and sacks, and every time you moved them from a truck to a train to a ship, it required a custom approach.
It was slow and prone to breaking.
Exactly. And software used to be exactly like that. Moving an application from one server to another meant dealing with different operating systems, conflicting dependencies, and just weird software quirks.
It would break constantly during the move.
Right. But Docker did, for software, what the steel container did for global shipping. It packages the application, in this case, Thorn's file transfer software, along with everything it needs to run, into one standardized, isolated container.
Oh, I see.
That container will run exactly the same way, regardless of what underlying hardware or cloud provider it sits on. By offering their software as a Docker container, Thorn is providing ultimate flexibility.
Which proves this third option isn't just a walled garden.
Right.
A walled garden is a closed ecosystem like Think of certain smartphone brands where the vendor dictates the terms, and everything only works if you buy entirely into their specific brand of hardware and software.
Exactly.
Instead of a walled garden, Thorn has built a tool set that you can bring to whatever digital landscape you already prefer.
It means they aren't forcing you to move to their neighborhood. You survey the landscape and pick your preferred terrain.
Yeah.
Maybe you already have a massive enterprise discount on an AWS mountain. Or maybe your engineering team prefers an Azure Valley or a Google Cloud Plain. It doesn't matter.
You pick the land, and Thorn just gives you the standardized blueprints and the bricks to build the castle there.
And from a business strategy perspective, this directly neutralizes one of the biggest hidden costs in enterprise IT: vendor lock-in.
Oh, yeah. Vendor lock-in is a massive financial risk.
Huge.
When you commit your company's entire workflow to a traditional SaaS platform, you are essentially held hostage by their pricing model.
Right. If they double their prices next year, moving your terabytes of data and all your user configurations out of their proprietary system is incredibly expensive and honestly technically daunting.
It's the classic trap. They make it incredibly easy to check your data in, but technically agonizing to check it out.
But with universal compatibility and containerized deployment, that dynamic completely shifts.
Oh.
If you are running your fortress on AWS and suddenly AWS pricing becomes untenable or, your company mandates a strategic shift to Azure, Thorn solutions are designed to just pick up and move right along with you.
Wow.
Because it's your environment. You aren't migrating away from Thorn. You are just relocating your own infrastructure.
It's literally a heavily armed digital fortress that you can load onto a truck and move across the country whenever you want.
Yes.
That creates a massive amount of leverage for the customer. You aren't gambling your entire data infrastructure on predicting which cloud provider will win out in the next decade.
Exactly. You are future-proofing your operations by maintaining your own sovereignty, regardless of who supplies the underlying servers.
It fundamentally changes the power dynamic between the software vendor and the enterprise customer.
It really does.
Well, let's pull all of this together because we've unpacked a very dense architectural shift today.
We definitely have.
We started by looking at a broken industry standard, a landscape fractured by a false dichotomy. We explored the real-world pain points of legacy systems, the crumbling, maintenance-heavy vault in the backyard that drains IT resources and causes those 2.0 AM panics.
Right. And we contrasted that with the alluring but ultimately compromising nature of traditional SaaS models.
Yeah.
We saw how the convenience of letting someone else handle the infrastructure is paid for by giving a third-party custody of your data and locking yourself into their ecosystem.
Right. And then we examined the architectural model Thorn Technologies is proposing to shatter that dichotomy. We discovered this third option.
Looking closely at how tools engineered like SFTP Gateway and StorageLink offer a completely different path forward.
A path that relies on three distinct technical pillars.
First, private cloud deployment, which allows you to maintain total control of the environment without taking on the burden of building the software from scratch.
Right. Second, zero data access, an architecture built entirely outside the data path to ensure the vendor can never physically touch your files, drastically reducing your threat surface.
And finally, universal cloud compatibility, utilizing things like Docker containers so you can build and move your infrastructure anywhere, completely neutralizing the threat of vendor lock-in.
Yep.
It really is the stone castle wall built around your digital cloud. You get the sleek, automated convenience of modern software without ever sacrificing the ultimate ownership of the data.
It's a compelling blueprint for taking back control, which, brings up something really profound to consider as we wrap up.
Oh, absolutely.
Thorn's architectural argument gives us a new lens to look at the software we interact with every day. They make a very strong case that a vendor does not need to touch your data to provide you with a highly engineered, modern service.
That is the core realization here. Right. It makes you wonder, if this kind of third option is totally possible for something as complex and secure as enterprise file transfers, what other software in your daily life or your business is forcing you into a false choice?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Where else are you accepting the compromise of someone else holding your data simply because you assumed a traditional SaaS model was the only modern option left on the table?
That is a phenomenal question to leave on. As you look around your own digital life, your own business operations, the apps you rely on, are you renting a shiny box in a public bank when you actually have the tools to build your own fortress?
Right.
It's a totally different way to look at digital sovereignty and definitely something to mull over. Until this time.